Hey everybody, Rayme here. How you doing today? I'm just getting set up a little bit. Just give me a sec to kind of set everything up here. Hope everyone's doing well today. I got some cool stuff to talk about today. I could probably talk for like 2 hours today, but I'm gonna kind of hold it and just talk. Maybe I'll just divide some of it up. Just making sure everything's set up correctly here. Let's see. Let's see. Looks like sound check is all good. Let me... All right. Perfect. All this stuff is up. Oh yeah, so many cool things to talk about today. Okay, let's see. Let me stop sound here. Let's make sure on my sound. Yes, voice seems to be working well. Okay, hey everybody, how you doing today? Rayme here. Hope everyone's doing well. I got some cool stuff to talk about today. Some fun stuff happening around here. Work-wise, I've been extremely busy, and it's Halloween. So that also keeps me, like, I have 3 little kids, for those of you that know. So, like, that keeps me extremely busy. And I've been sick 3 times this semester. I'm finally getting over my 3rd cold. Man, not fun. Okay. So first thing I wanted to talk about. I did an interview today with Market Watch. For those of you that aren't familiar with like stocks and stuff like that, they're a big financial firm, on Netflix's plan to start speeding up their videos. Because as you know, if you don't know, I've done a bunch of research on time compressed instruction, which is basically like podcasts that are sped up. I did a lot of this research in like 2007 to like 2012. So it's not like stuff I just did like recently, but I did it when like podcasting was just called podcasting, wasn't a thing yet, wasn't popular yet. So basically they wanted to talk about, you know, how do I feel about Netflix's plan to increase the speed of movies? Like if a viewer decides to watch it at 1.5 times, 1.25 times, or slower, like 0.75 times, or 2 times as fast. And what they wanted to know what the research said and stuff like that. And interestingly, so what the research does say about this topic is that we can increase the speed of sound, and we can increase the speed of like sound and video, or sound and images, or like a sound and animation up to 1.5 times. So that's like a 10-minute broadcast will be 7.5 minutes. That it does not increase like your cognitive load, which means learning is not depressed. As soon as you at about the 1.5 times mark, down to and any higher, learning just goes whoosh, straight down like super fast. So you got to be very, very careful when you increase it. Now, so the theory behind this is people speak around the 150 words per minute. On average, we talk around 150 words per minute. Now, you're probably saying, well, I know that one person that like talks 200 words per, like is super, just like, if you remember Micro Machines, like the Micro Machine guy, man, that guy could talk like 250 words per minute, I swear. Or, you know, someone that talks like really, really slow. So like, you know, on average, we talk around 150. I've counted myself. My personal average is around 160 words per minute. So I'm a little bit above the average. And I've been told by other people that I talk fast. But I'm really not that much above the average. So the interesting thing about that is we read at about 280 words per minute. So our reading comprehension, the way we normal people read, is much faster than we talk. So the idea is, well, if we can learn really well reading and we're reading this fast, shouldn't we be able to hear just as fast? And so we went out to answer that question, and basically the answer was yes, we actually can learn listening that fast and watching that fast. And guess what? When you increase to about 280 words per minute, like the average reading speed, It's about a 1.5 times difference. So it all makes sense. It agrees with the research and it makes sense. So basically, my thoughts are yes, we can learn just as much by watching a video at 1.5 times. However, you change the artistic scope of the work. Like sometimes there's meant to be pauses in movies and stuff like that. And so maybe you're going to miss like some of the emotions not going to come out as well. The other thing is that there could be like subtle things in videos, like if there's like a picture on a desk that's like quickly browsed through in the camera, like quickly panned over, that you're supposed to kind of catch, but it's not like a huge plot of the movie, but it can really change the scope of the movie if you catch that one little thing. You might miss those little things in movies that can make them awesome. So some directors and Hollywood people are upset about it, and I completely understand from their artistic reason why. And I also understand, like, you know what, when I'm watching one of those like 48-hour mystery things on Netflix, that's like the, you know, like the murder mystery thing that was drawn out to like 10 or 20 episodes that should have just been like a 1 hour episode. I'll tell you what, I could watch that on 1.5 times and not be upset. A good movie, gotta watch it normal. So I think there's some like times and places for it. So I'm not like disappointed in it. I think it can be cool, and I'm curious to like see how that really plays out. So that's like something in the future. I'll probably be talking about that a little more coming up as like we start to see like how it's really rolled out and what people are experiencing when they really like it. So I probably will be talking about that at some point in the future. But a cool thing nonetheless. And when the interview does come out, like they're going to use some of my quotes, or I don't know what they're going to use of mine, just my knowledge, but they're going to mention my name. I'll post a link on my like Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And maybe we'll actually go through, and what we'll do is we'll review the article on one of my streams. That'll be kind of cool. Okay. Next topic of the day. I thought this is really interesting. So, for those of you who are on Twitter and use it all the time, I mean, y'all know what it is, but if you're using it all the time, it's kind of interesting to learn that Twitter has banned political ads. So, let me talk about why this is like big news. I'm gonna get not political whatsoever, so I'm gonna tell you like factual information about like political stuff and Facebook and Twitter. So for those of you that don't know, if you're not familiar, there was, you know, people were saying that there were Russian trolls or Russian people potentially advertising on Facebook, all social media, just a bunch of fake stuff. Or maybe not even fake stuff, but like just over sensualized, like whatever. Just basically they're advertising on Facebook during our election to try to influence it. Whether they were trying to influence it for any candidate or whatever, I'm not getting into that. I don't know what they were really trying to do, but they were trying to potentially influence the election. Now, one of the things that's interesting that has come out on Facebook recently, so if you're not familiar with advertising on Facebook and Twitter, they're extremely strict. Like my wife's company has like advertises on there and stuff, and we've like ran into like roadblocks with like not being able to advertise certain products for like really no reason at all, like these weird policies, and it's just like AI blocking the ads and all kinds of weird stuff. I was actually on Twitter, got in trouble one time, like they suspended my account for 24 hours because I was talking about coding, and apparently like some terrorist group or I don't even know what it was, some group was criticizing people, telling someone to like they couldn't get a job or something. They were just like telling them to code, and so there was some like criticism, and apparently now if you like use the hashtag code or coding in Twitter, you can potentially get banned. And I was talking about, I'm a professor. I was showing an article about kids learning to code, like telling how it's like nice in school that kids are learning to program, and I got banned for 24 hours from the service. So there's all kinds of issues with this stuff. Okay, so Twitter has decided to ban political ads, which is really, really interesting. First of all, because from a business standpoint, like doesn't make sense. There's tons of revenue from these political ads. Politicians are all using Twitter to reach their fans and stuff. And at the same time, it says as Facebook doubles down. So what's interesting is Facebook allows political ads. And this is something really interesting. Facebook does not check for, like you could be a politician and actually run false Facebook ads. Like, you can lie, and Facebook does not fact check the ads. They're allow politicians to say whatever they want in their ads. Now that's fine. I don't know like if Facebook should be like fact checking things or not. That's not the argument I'm really saying here, but it's interesting they don't. They allow, like, knowingly a politician can do something like that. But what's interesting is that, like, other companies can't. Like, they do fact check companies, and they do fact check other people running ads on Facebook. So, like, if you're a company and you're running something and Facebook just doesn't like it, even though it's correct, they just ban it. Like, their AI will just ban it, and they won't let you, like, do it. But if you're a politician, you can actually advertise anything on there that's completely made up, and they will let you do it. It's just mind-boggling. Like, that doesn't make any sense. At least get your policy straight, whatever it is. So just make it correct, you know? Like, so anyway, I thought this was really interesting and something kind of cool and kind of funny. Okay. Next. Oh, randomly, like, I'm talking about Russia today for some reason. If you're not familiar, so Russia has this thing they've been planning for a while now, where basically what they're going to do is they're going to create like their own firewall, their own like internet system to block like and protect themselves against cyber attacks. It's really interesting to hear that, because you're wondering like how much are they really going to be censoring and stuff. You know, you hear about like other countries who really extremely censor the internet, and you're wondering like, well, what are like the good and bad things that are going to come of this. So it's starting November 1st, tomorrow. So we're going to hear more about this. So there'll be more to come, but I just want to kind of like bring that up because I think it's something that's going to be really interesting to kind of see like what happens. You know, as we become more global, it's really interesting to start to see like how we're connected and how the internet is playing a part in like business and what we're doing for like everyone. So something I'm going to pay attention to. All right. I'm on this random website here, which you see. So I just read this book, Dawn of Wonder. For those of you that don't know, I read all the time. I try to read a lot of different books. I read like 1 to 2 books every month for fun. This is how I fall asleep at night. When I go to bed, I read for like 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how tired I am. So that's what I do. So I just read this book. This is like a free Amazon Prime book. I just picked it. It had 4,000 like reviews, and it was like 4.8 stars on Amazon. So I was like, well, I'll give it a try. Because I like a lot of like sci-fi fantasy books, like knights, dragons, armor, that magic, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. I love reading. I like reading a bunch of different. I read a lot of different kind of things, but these are one of the kind of books I really enjoy reading. I love getting into a series, and it's cool. So I read this book. This book took me a month and a half to read. I couldn't figure out what's going on. Why is it taking me so long to read this book? The book was like 750 pages, so that was why. So okay, because most of the books I read are probably like 400 pages, so that's why it took me so long to read, which I thought was cool, and I was really excited to read the next one. But, and I'm not criticizing this author at all, actually. I love the book. I can't wait for the next one. The next books aren't out yet, and I can't stand when I read something, and I can't stand when I go to read a book, and then I have to wait like 2 or 3 years for the next version to come out, because I forget all the details. It's not like a movie that I can just go back and watch it. Like, this book took me a month and a half to read, so I'm not going to spend another month and a half rereading it. So whenever this book does come out, which there's no release date, could be a year or 2, I'm going to have forgotten everything. I'm not even going to remember to go back and look. So I'm kind of disappointed in the series. It's a really cool book. I think there's a lot of potential. You know, it follows a lot of the same plots of stories that I like, but I can't read the next one for forever. And if I would have known that, I would have never started it. I would have put it in like my list and waited till the whole series was out, which could be years from now, before I would have read it. So, you know, I'm a little disappointed in not the book at all. I'm disappointed in myself for not doing enough research. Really cool book though. Okay, and I just wanted to mention that I just kind of hate reading stuff that the whole series isn't out. I'm kind of like that with like series now on Hulu and stuff. Like, we're watching the Castle Rock, if you're watching that. It's one of the Hulu series they're releasing right now. Like, but they release it like every Wednesday. So I watched the first few episodes, then I have to like wait a week. And it's like I watch a bunch of stuff in between that, and I hate like coming back. Just kind of annoying. I guess I've gotten used to that with the way streaming content like Netflix series and stuff work. So anyway, that's just a little my pet peeve of the day. I found this really cool report from Goldman Sachs that I wanted to talk about a little bit. So this is Goldman Sachs. well, it's called From the Wild West to Mainstream, but it's a Goldman Sachs equity research report from last year. So they wrote this last year, and basically what it is talking about the future of esports, and I thought it was really cool. Because what was really cool about it is they have a bunch of good statistics in it that I really like. Like they talk about like revenue. So they're basically saying that in 2018 revenue was $869 million. They estimate it in 2022 to be almost 3 billion. That's 33%, 36, 35, 37. That's almost a 40% revenue jump every single year. If you're not sure, if you're not like familiar with like return on investments and like investing and ROI and stuff like that, the average S&P 500 over the long term, like a really good number is like 6 to 7%. So we're talking about like, 6 times that, 5, 6 times that. So this is like a pretty impressive return on investment. And the interesting thing is, one of the things I wanted to talk about, I'm not going to go through this document. I'm actually going to spend a stream where I just go through all the statistics here in this document. I just wanted to point that out. One of the really interesting things about this is that when we're talking about revenue from esports, we are only talking about like events and like licensing from games and stuff. What we're not talking about are all the people who are involved in esports or gaming and are streaming on their own. We're not talking about that revenue. We're not talking about like game sales revenue, because esports sells games. So these numbers are like quantifying these like they don't even make sense. Like Fortnite's making $3 billion this year. And part of that reason is because it's a competitive esport game. So to say esports, so it's an interesting way to look at the revenue, I guess is what I'm saying. But regardless, it's showing this huge, awesome growth, which is really nice and really exciting. So I like that. Kind of cool. I'm going to go through this whole entire document a little later, maybe like in the next few weeks. I want to go through all the stats and just have a whole session where I go through that. But not today. I just wanted to kind of talk about where they're getting these, like when you hear about this growth of esports, like where they're getting their money from. Okay. Final thing, which I thought was pretty cool. So as you know, I'm a huge Halo fan. I love the game Halo. It's a really good competitive game. It was one of the real first esports games with MLG in the early 2000s. People would have like LAN parties, and then MLG came out. When Halo 3 came out, we were playing online against each other, trying to achieve rank. Super fun game. So I've talked about this a bunch of times, but they're releasing it for the PC. It's already on Xbox. They're releasing it for the PC. They're also releasing some newer stuff for PC and Xbox. It's coming out soon. So I'm hoping when they do that, this game gets a lot of traction and starts to become like another big esports game. Right now, it's being used in the esports world, but it's not like a bit as big as like a Fortnite or a League of Legends. I mean, it's not even close to them. They're the two big ones, and like Overwatch. It's not one of them. But so they release like updates once a month, and I went through the last one, which didn't really. But this update actually has a lot of good information. They're telling us about game types. I'm not gonna like go through that. If you're not a big Halo person, you don't want to see that. But two things I want to talk about here. One is they're talking about crossplay. So one of the interesting things about crossplay that's been happening in other games over the last few years is that we can now play against people who are on different systems. Like if you have an Xbox and I have a PC and our friend has a Nintendo Switch, we can all play the same game against each other. That's server crossplay. It's a really cool idea. So they're talking about how crossplay is going to work on Xbox and PC and stuff, which is something that's really exciting. Although they did say that at launch, we will not support Xbox PC crossplay, but as we've said previously, this is something the team will monitor and evaluate over time. I mean, it's going to come. It's going to if they want this to be a big esports game, they got to do it, and that should be like a priority. But hopefully, it does come. And they talk about like all the some of the settings and things that are coming, which is nice to see. They're telling us what's going to happen. But here's what I wanted to show you guys that I thought was kind of cool. Here we go. Let's see if we can blow up this picture a little bit. Oh, you know what? I probably don't want to blow it up because I'll be covering half the thing. Let's see. No picture. Let's see. Let me move it over. You're not necessarily seeing me. Okay. So what they're actually showing are the minimum specs to play this. I'm always interested in minimum specs of games because I think it's kind of cool see like, well, what kind of PC do you need to really run this thing? So you can see on the side here they have CPU. I'll do that. They have the CPU, the GPU, that's graphics processor, the RAM, and the average frames per second. So let's see what Halo. Let's look at the minimum specs. Minimum specs are 8 gigabytes of RAM. So think about that. I've been talking about RAM a lot when people tell me like they want to buy a new computer. I tell them, because a lot of them see like this cheap machine, especially with Black Friday coming up, they see a cheap machine and they're interested in getting it, and they'll send me the gigabytes. And I've seen machines this holiday season with like 4 gigabytes, and most of them have like seem to have 8. And I tell these people, you know, I bought my wife's computer 4 years ago now. It was a cheap computer then, and it was 8 gigabytes. I bought my Surface Pro probably like 3 years ago, and it was on the lower, well, it was like a mid-level then, and it had 8 gigabytes. My laptop that I'm using right now has 32 gigabytes, just to put that into perspective. And some desktop PCs have as much as 64 gigabytes. So if you want to think about like, where does your computer fall? What should you be doing? Like 8 gigabytes is now like the bare minimum to run. Last year or the year before, when games were, they would be like 4 to 6, and it would run really bad. When they say minimum, that means like it's probably going to run pretty bad on this. Usually want to exceed that. So start to think about that. If you're buying a new computer, like what are you going to do with it? And you know, especially if you're going to keep your computer for like 3 to 5 years, which I have to do. I'm on like a 4-year plan with my computer, so I have to get the best so it works, and I do all this other stuff, so I need it. But you know, if you're trying to buy a new computer right now and it's 8 gigabytes and you want it to last 4 years, I'd probably do like a good 12 to 16 gigabyte minimum. One of my recommendations. But you know, I'm a big fan of buying more tech than you need. And whenever I say buy a computer, I always recommend that you buy a warranty for as long as it's going to be. But I thought this was really neat that Halo released this, because I love seeing the specs of what new games and stuff are requiring. So that's it for today. That's everything I wanted to cover. I'm going to do something cool this weekend. I'm going camping with the Cub Scouts. Super excited for that. My kids get super excited. I'm like stocking up on supplies now. I always have a good time when we go camping. It's a lot of fun. And Halloween's tonight, so we're all excited for that. But I will be back Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. And I'll decide what I want to do. Maybe I'll go through that document of eSports statistics then. We'll have to see what I feel like doing. And I like to see what's going to happen over the weekend to make up my mind if that's what I want to do. But that's it, y'all. Have a good night. Have a good day, I should say.